Well, this is Smart Means Business. I'm Andrew Barije, and it's quite a cool Monday, as you can see, as businesses are definitely taking step in the country, Uganda. Well, the topic of discussion today is in line with a UNOC, an initiative by the Parliament of Uganda, where the law was passed that UNOC is to be the sole supplier to all petroleum companies within the country Uganda, and of course there are quite a lot of advantages that are related to this. Maybe just a brief here: the Ugandan Parliament passed the Petroleum Supply Amendment Act 2023, of course granting Uganda National Oil Company a monopoly on supplying the petroleum products, and definitely this comes with quite a number of warnings that the move could actually instead worsen the problem it is intended to cure. This is just according to part of the critiques. Definitely, it's not the overall in regards to that. Of course, the bill was first tabled before Parliament, that is on October 31st, and was processed and passed by a quorum of 186 members of Parliament, of course announced by Speaker Among, who presided over that sitting. But well, to break down those matters here, today we are taking a look at what sustainable models have been put in place by the Uganda National Oil Company to ensure that this model is actually effective and it works for the good of the Ugandans, and we shall really experience this progress at the end of the day. And my guest, of course, this morning is Sarah Banage. Now, she is the head of corporate affairs at Uganda National Oil Company Limited, the company which is going to be the sole supplier to all petroleum companies in the country, and she is a mass communication specialist with 15 years and above experience of operational and managerial experience in the field of journalism, strategic communication, public relations at the same time, and of course working with both public and the private sector. And definitely, she's definitely also skilled in creative copy for newsletters, articles, and a variety of business material, and with a proven track record of strong interpersonal and organizational skills. Definitely, if I'm to break down this profile, I can spend a whole day. It's definitely endless. And now let's get into this discussion with Sarah Banage. It's a pleasure to have you in Smart Means Business. How are you How are you feeling today? How are you?
Very well, thank you. Smart means business. I like that.
Yes, smart means business. I mean, you wake up in the morning and you need to understand because it prepares you to make the right decisions before you get to the business premise. As an entrepreneur, you are a CEO, you are a decision maker, policy maker in any way. Yeah. Now, heading into what really transpired in here about being the sole supplier of petroleum to all petroleum companies, we want to understand what objectives does the Uganda National Oil Company aim to achieve by having monopoly on the importation of supply of petroleum products, and also trying to understand how do these align with Uganda's long-term energy goals.
Okay. So, thank you. I take you back a bit.
Yeah.
We have been having these volatile prices, pump prices. You've been seeing them continuously. We've been having shortages. You've been seeing them. Actually, the shortages come and then the prices spike. Yeah, so the whole objective of having government, because now government decided to get involved themselves. Previously, it's been oil marketing companies doing this business. They bring in the product, they put it on the retail, and they retail it to you. So now government decided to get involved as government through the company they mandated to represent them, do commercial business in this sector, which is UNOC. So that's how we get involved. And so we are now empowered. But you've talked very well about the bill, which was finally assented to by the president.
The president, yeah.
So our part, that was really to expand our responsibility and empower us to be a sole importer now of these petroleum products into the destined for the Ugandan market. Yes, so now the sole objective, three objectives is what we are looking for here, which is security of supply.
Security of supply.
Yes.
What does that entail?
Security of supply means you have sufficient supply. Your supply is secure. It's enough. Because what was previously happening, we've been buying this product from companies in Kenya.
Yes.
What they do first satisfy their market as the Kenyan market, and what is left over or what is remains is what has been finding its way in Uganda. So oftentimes what we wanted is not what we received. And every time a product, because the forces of demand and supply is what actually runs this market.
The market, yes.
Now, when you have less supply because you got less product coming into the country, having bought it from Kenya, which had to first satisfy their own market, then you have a problem because you have less supply and the demand is still high. Forces of demand and supply in economics, you remember, means
exactly.
the prices have to go up. So government got involved so that we ensure there is sufficient supply in order to manage these spiking pump prices. That's the first thing. When you bring in enough, sufficient, appropriate product, there is no reason for people hoarding it. There is no reason for prices shooting up because it is sufficient. It is enough. So the first reason was security or sufficiency or existence of enough petroleum supply. Petroleum fuel supply. Okay. Then the second reason was we have storage terminal which is supposed to have the government reserve. Every country operates a reserve. In a bad day, you call on to your reserves because still, should there be any interruption in the supply chain, and yet you are living hand to mouth, should I say? Because it's just like food. If you don't have enough food, you're living hand to mouth. You didn't keep any in the store, you're going to get problems.
You're definitely going to get problems.
The moment the lockdown comes, you have no food in your house, then you are either going to go hungry. You know, that's the only other reason. So the second objective then becomes to ensure we have enough stock, holding stock, reserves, storage stock for a rainy day. That's the second objective. So government gets involved directly because it's our responsibility. UNOC is empowered to have sufficient reserves. When you have sufficient reserves and there is a shortage, you put more in the market just to control the price, just to make sure prices are not going up and down. So that was the second objective. The objective of ensuring we have enough stock, reserve stock. Then the third one, when all that is done, you're basically enhancing competitive pricing. Competitive pricing? Yes, because the reason we have been suffering as Uganda, why we don't have competitive prices, we get shortfalls. Number one, we don't have a sufficient in reserve to cover up a shortfall, so that affects the pump price. Now government is getting involved through UNOC to ensure, one, we have enough stock holding, we have enough reserve, two, we have enough supply. You only call upon the stock on a rainy day, but we have enough supply. And once those two are done, then you are ensuring you have competitive pump prices. Wow. Now, so those are the three objectives.
The three objectives are absolutely amazing. Now, given the risky nature of international oil markets, if we can talk about the mitigation risks just in case of supply chain disruptions, what are some of the measures that have been put in place to combat that?
Okay, now, the supply risk would come, for example, the biggest we have been suffering in Uganda is when the Kenyan route gets issues. They are in an election, you saw. Yeah. Their borders are closed. They are having their own issues, fighting internally. If you remember, it has happened before during a certain election.
It has happened, yes, I remember.
When you have one route, you're into problems. Okay? Because we call that the Northern Corridor. We had one route, that's the main supply route, and then suddenly it's disrupted. There was a time when the truck drivers, I think we asked them for COVID certificates and they went on strike. So that's one route disrupted. So talking about the risks, in order to manage that risk. We are equally working on the southern route, the route to
Tanzania. Yes.
Yes. So you mitigate the risks of supply by ensuring you have more than one route bringing in the product in your country. Yes. So that's how we are managing that. We have the route we are talking. It's a clear route actually. Product can come through Dar es Salaam. Product can come through the Tanga port and come by road all the way to Mutukula. It can also come all the way up to Mwanza, then by lake. Yes, to Port Bell.
Okay.
So we have two routes to ensure if one is disrupted, the second should work. That's how you mitigate risk.
Wow. Maybe something, you know, like there were suggestions, you know, at first there were plans that by May 2025 we shall be definitely having our oil, I mean the crude oil. But later on, the Ministers of Energy says by the end of 2025, and there has been contentions about this, what is happening, and one of the key issues that has been raised is the rise of civil society groups, which seem to decampaign the whole aspect of that. Have you also looked into that aspect in case it really arose from the society? I mean, you're transporting this. I mean, this whole in the name of climate change and all these perspectives. Maybe briefly we can highlight on that.
Okay, something actually, another way you can mitigate risks I had not shared is by having enough storage. Yeah, so if a supply route is disrupted for a few days, you have storage to coming on the market so that the whole purpose is at no point should you have insufficient supply at the pump price, because that will run up the prices.
Okay.
So another way we're ensuring that the risk of supplying to the country is the storage route. We have the Ginger storage terminal.
Ginger storage terminal.
It can store enough of our product. But also in Tanzania, we have Tanga has storage terminals that we can use. Okay, and then internally we are also planning to build a huge storage terminal in MPG for our own product when it comes online from Hoima. When we refine in Hoima, the product's first destination is a huge storage terminal in MPG so that it's nearer the market. Yeah. So another way you can mitigate risk is by the storage terminal, which we are already in the business of. Either we have one up and running, we have some in Reserve Tanga, and then one to be built. Yeah. Now back to your question of the civil
society organizations.
Yes, civil society organizations. Yes, civil society organizations, and they're not. It's not in bad taste actually. For some of them, they're reasonable. All they lack is information, and what we've been doing is we keep engaging them, we keep telling them the few things that we're doing, the many things that we're doing. Because if you're talking climate change, then the solution there is the gases in the air. The solution would be plant more trees.
Plant more trees, yes.
I think you heard about the campaign. We have an alliance for climate resistance. It's an initiative really where we're partnering with Church of Uganda and different people. We're partnering, and the whole purpose is grow up the forest cover so that when our refinery is on stream, those green gases are trapped by the trees. And the trees we are looking at planting is between 40 million and 100,000 million. And the calculations have been done that kind of magnitude refinery, if you have those trees, they'll balance what we call net zero. The gases are captured by the trees, and then you are good to go. So the civil society has been a good accountability partner for some of them, like I've said, that are out to let us know what we could improve, what we're not doing well, so that we improve. So they have been good accountability partners, and once we engage them, once we bring them on board, they're doing some work they're doing some accountability work in the villages and communities. That's good. But for some, you have to remember, for some they don't want to hear it, because you probably need to understand how they were established. Now, if your TORs for establishment are fight equal, and that's the whole reason you exist, it might be a bit difficult to look otherwise, because the purpose for your existence, the funding for your existence is to fight a project. Now, yes, we will engage you, but the thing is, if your principal driver is fight, regardless of what you have been told, that we will not be able to come over. But luckily, there are very few of that kind, because most of them, like I've said, we engage and actually work together, plant more trees. Yes, we are. Do this, keep us accountable. Yes, they do. So that is something that, whereas it might be like a risk, it is something that you mitigate by listening and acting for those who are out to actually keep you accountable. And we've done that.
Amazing. And maybe just a little, besides, okay, them keeping you accountable, are they aware of the benefits of what these will be like to them? Because I'm trying to imagine, I remember some time back when you urged some of the people to register their companies on the national database if they are to have the benefits of mining oil. How far will that other side of changing the ideology they have about oil?
They do. Most of them have come round.
They come
Most
around,
of them
yeah.
have come round,
Yeah.
because you see, the whole thing here is, why wouldn't you come round? You're worried about your climate.
Exactly.
We're going to affect the climate.
Yeah.
Then when you understand the programs, I've told you the programs we have, we even have this Alliance for Climate Resistance, we have partners coming on board. There's a whole line of things we are doing. The environmental, social, and governance strategies in place. We have a strategy. It tells us what to do, not just for the environment, but also on the social aspect. How are we treating the communities where we work? On the governance side, how does keep itself accountable in the way they operate? Apart from the environment, there's the social and the governance side. So when they get to know the things we are doing, and they know the benefits coming out of this, the worry then fades away, because the mitigations are in place and they're looking good, and it's a question of having them implemented time and again, and that kind of thing. So yes, they understand the benefit, to answer your question. They're interested in seeing the mitigation measures in place, because their whole concern is about the climate change. But there's something we need to understand here. You cannot just jump on a bandwagon of climate change, because you see, at the end of the day, these gases, there are countries that are at 33%, 38% spoiling our environment. They are already industrialized. They have numerous industries already running, creating that carbon, green, bad gases in the air. Africa, on the other hand, has not had that, because you see, we don't have that level of industrialization.
We
don't.
Not yet.
And you,
Exactly.
Ghana in particular, no, we don't. So when you look at the continent on a whole, the green gas emissions are less than, for Uganda, we are even less than 1%. So you have to imagine, so what are we affecting
So
here?
could it be propaganda or something? That
It is, you see, when they sit and make such decisions, transitions vary. You have to know, what are you transitioning from? For them, they could be transitioning from bad gases, heavy industrialization, fossils and all that, to green. Now, for us, we haven't started. So what are we transitioning from? We have our biggest issue as poverty. The energy poverty is our biggest issue. As in, we don't have energy, and so we're cutting down all these trees because we need fuel energy. So this transition, and this is what has even just happened in COP28, the slogan now is, you went in fast, come out, pull out fast. You can't ask all of us to transition at the same time when you have been living all these years and having the environment affected with these gases. Then you're asking all of us to come out when we have not started. So fast in, fast out. That's fair. You went in, for years you've been having this industrialization. The air is the way it is, 38%, 33%. Others are still at 0.1. You came in fast,
get out fast.
Yes. Go to the green, transition to cleaner, renewable energy. Yes. So that really is a fair way of looking at things. Yeah.
Well, very beautiful. My guest this morning is Sarah Banage, is the head of corporate affairs. You get a national oil company, For now, let's take a short break and we shall be returning for further insights.
Smart 24, driving business.
Jovia. Ng'oyolekera ku lugendo luno olw'obulamu nkuwa ekirabo eky'amaanyi agatazizibwa, amaanyi okulabibwa n'okuwulirwa mu mawanga ag'ewala ennyo, okutuuka buli wamu nga yadde togenzeeyo, ensi yonna ng'ekuli mu ngalo. Okutambula mu biseera n'okumanya buli kimu ekirina okumanyibwa. Jovia, kino kye kirabo kyange gy'oli.
Tewali kumuko ky'osobola okukola ku mukutu nnandameggwa ogwa MTN.
Smart 24, driving business.
Yes, we'll be back from the break. I'm Andrew Barija. This is Smart Means Business, and my guest this morning is Sarah Banage, Head of Corporate Affairs, the Uganda National Oil Corporation. And today we're discussing matters to do with UNOC, of course, being the sole supplier of petroleum-related products to all petroleum countries, that is in the country, Uganda. And now heading back to our conversations, of course, a Ugandan out there could be wondering, why Vital?
Why Vital? It's a fair question. Now, Vital is one of, if not the biggest, petroleum trading company. So when we're looking at who to trade with as a country, yes, they tick that box because they're one of the biggest, if not the largest, worldwide trading. Secondly, Vitol, the works have been seen because Vitol exists on this continent, Africa. Vitol supplies Rwanda, Vitol is existing in Tanzania, Vitol is existing in Zambia. So there are quite a number of countries. I don't know if Mozambique is one of them. There are quite a number of countries that we have seen they're able to do that work that we're, the kind of arrangement we're getting into with them on the African continent. Yeah, because being big as they are,
Yeah.
they could be when they're only operating in external countries, but they actually exist on this continent. So that was a good, like, they tick that box. Now, thirdly, Vitol is ready to build our capacity. Because, yes, it's ready to do that by working with the largest petroleum trading company. We as UNOC really are in a very good space because that's the business we are also doing. So that's the best way to learn. You learn from the biggest. So that capacity building, because we're going to be working together, is something that sits very well with us because already we are in this business of bulk trading. We've been doing it since 2020. We launched it. We've been doing bulk trading and selling, bringing fuel in bulk into Uganda and selling it to the retailers, retailing oil marketing companies. So we've been doing it in that space at that magnitude. Now, when you're trading with Vitol, one of the largest, definitely your skills and your knowledge is high up there. So that was another reason we needed them. But more importantly, Vitol is ready to also assist us build our storage terminal.
Storage terminal.
In Kampala storage terminal, in Mpigi. Now, you know we are going to refine the crude. And when we refine the crude, you get a ready-to-use product called petrol, diesel, jet fuel. You need to bring it from Hoima and settle it near the market. Those are the storage terminals from where it will be bought by the retailing companies and into your car. So we have this Mpigi area, Namuwabula, a very big space of land, and the plan is to build a 320 million storage terminal. Vitol is ready to work with us on that. So they really tick several boxes. Not very many trading companies will trade with you, give you the knowledge, then build with you the storage terminal. But even more importantly, Vitol is offering us a credit facility. When you buy this product from the refineries in Saudi Arabia and wherever you're buying the product from, they need cash for that product to move out of the refinery. You need to have that cash. It's not little cash. Now, the reason Vitol and countries work well with Vitol is because Vitol will bring our product to Mombasa. They will stake their money there and bring the product to Mombasa. Then when we sell the product to the oil marketing companies, the retailers that you know, because us we're selling in bulk what we've brought in. Once we sell, we get the money and pay back Vitol. Now that credit facility is not available to so many of those trading companies, and yet these African countries, small as we are, actually need that credit facility in order to thrive. Then in time, you build your financial muscle to be able to do what Vitol is doing. So Vitol ticked that box, which was very important in terms of the credit, in terms of the training, in terms of the capacity building, the fact that they work on this continent already, and the fact that they're one of the largest, really. We felt as a country this is a good decision to take. That's why Vitol.
That's why Vitol. You know, I was thinking there is something that is happening currently in Africa. Of course, when it comes to resource exploitation, China and America are trying to see, but of course China seems to be having the upper hand, depending on, because if you take a look at the visible projects it has established, that is quite key. And of course one of the key partners to China is Uganda, because it's getting a lot of interest in working with Uganda. I'm trying to understand, at the time of the choice of Vitol, I hope the decision won't affect other partners in the same business. For example, I'm trying to imagine the Chinese National Oil Company making sure that there is healthy relationships established, and these very companies could actually give help in case of something unforeseen because of the healthy relationship which is still maintained. And I believe you're working on that. How far is in terms of maintaining those relationships?
Okay, I can explain something. In this business of oil, different people have different niches, So yes, you've talked about the China Oil Company, but they probably may not be a trading company internationally. Yes, there may not be. Yes, they produce, and yes, we have relationships with them because they are a partner. We are developing upstream. We are developing the oil, bringing it out of the ground in Kingfisher with CNOOC. It's a Chinese company. That is exploration and development. So different countries, different companies have different niches. That is their niche. They develop, they explore, they do that very well, but they may not be an international petroleum trading company the way Vitol is. Yes, so it's not like there is strife or competition. We are partnering with who has the niche where. In exploration and development, yes, we are with CNOOC. In petroleum trading, I said Vitol is one of the biggest. So we are with Vitol. So different countries, it's not common to find a company doing very well in exploration and development. They are doing very well in refining and transportation, which is the pipelines, doing very well downstream, which is the trading. It is not common. They will have a niche in a space. Yeah, so there is no strife.
Now, Ugandan is trying to imagine, because currently today the price of diesel is about 4,500. Okay, depending on the different petrol stations. Premium, of course, which is the most consumed at 5,000, about 570. I'm considering the general, of course, the Shell prices, and Total has their own fix, but at least it's in the range. So how will this likely have a shift when this initiative actually takes place? Should we imagine fuel at 3,500 at some point?
Okay, I can explain that. Now, first of all, oil prices worldwide are set internationally. Uganda cannot have its own price. Saudi Arabia cannot have its own price. America, no. They are set internationally, and they are competitive prices. What may change in respect to a jurisdiction like Africa, then Uganda, which is land-linked, for example, because you see, it depends also where you're located. You could be at a port, so you get it straight away from the refinery in Arabia, Saudi Arabia, and you're at a port advantage like Kenya and Tanzania do. But you could also be internally blessed, land-linked like Uganda and Rwanda. So there will be certain costs that come logistically because you transport it from the port into your market. That would probably adjust the competitiveness of your pump price as compared to a country at the port. So what am I saying? The prices are internationally set. You do receive them at the ports at very competitive prices. You may have extras added because of the logistical transportation cost, which is what we've been having as a country. So now, to answer your question that why do the different petrol stations have different prices, that's their business game. But what UNOC is going to do is we are selling to all at a competitive price. So that's the fairness involved. Whereas initially, maybe you have some of these big companies relating with their sister companies in Kenya, so that when they get it at the port, the sister company receives it, because Uganda has been having 2 levels of middlemen before the product comes into our country. It's been coming, it's bought, and then it's transported, and then it's given to a company in Kenya, which gives to the companies, and then Uganda, through their sister companies. Total has, Starbucks has, they have sister companies in Kenya. So by the time you get the product here, it has markups of middlemen, because we are not at the port and we're not buying from the refinery. And that's why government comes in to say, I want all these out of the picture.
Okay.
Middlemen, because as a country, I can buy from the refinery with someone who has the potential.
The potential, yeah.
Yes. So the reason prices change, I don't have that answer. That's a business game. But what I can tell you is that when UNOC brings in the product, it will sell it to at one competitive price, to Total, to Shell, to Mogas. Every oil marketing company will receive it at a competitive price, the same price. So that is as far as I can explain it. Now, as to whether some companies will have it shoot up, I doubt it. Why? Why would you shoot it up when so-and-so is selling it at a different price? What has been bringing the volatility in price, if I'm to explain again, has been the shortages.
Shortages.
When there is a shortage in supply of any product, and the demand is still the same, the economics of demand and supply dictate the prices to go up. Yes. So what UNOC is assuring and ensuring should happen, will happen, is having sufficient supply in the country.
Sufficient supply.
Exactly. So that there's no reason to have the fuel not enough so that prices go up at the pump. And even if there is any slight disruption, enough holding stock, enough storage that can be put onto the market still to ensure competitive stability of the price. So we are ensuring stability of price, because once you handle the supply, then the prices have no reason to keep spiking, because you have enough product on the market.
So in other words, Ugandans may not be guaranteed of a reduction in the prices, but they are assured of security, stability.
Yes, stability of the price. Because
Yeah.
reduction, increment are things determined at an international level. But the security is what actually brings the spiking, the supply insecurity.
Insecurities, supply insecurities. Okay.
Yes.
Absolutely beautiful. And maybe we can take a look at the long-term objectives of, as a result of this model.
Okay. So we are importing. We've been given we've been given a bigger responsibility. We've been doing this job of selling the product in bulk.
Yeah.
And now we have this responsibility, which we believe we are going to do very well, of being the sole importer and supplier to companies in the Ugandan market for a period of time. Because once the refinery is on stream, the refinery's sole purpose is for us to be able to have a finished product from the crude that we are bringing up in 2025. The crude in its form cannot be utilized. You need to add value to it, and that's what we call the refinery. When the refinery creates the petrol, the diesel, the jet fuel we need as a country, we anticipate, if I'm to explain to you, the refinery is a 60,000 barrel refinery.
60,000 barrel, okay.
Yes, which is approximately 9.5 million liters.
Okay.
Now, just to put things in perspective, currently as a country, we consume 6 million liters every day.
6 million liters every day.
So if you are going to produce 9.5 million liters, you have enough for your country and enough to also sell
to the neighboring
countries. So our long-term plan then becomes, one, we must build, and it is going to be built, the refinery, so that we have a ready-to-use product. Building the refinery is not just about the ready-to-use product. When you build a refinery, the number of industries that arise as a result of having a refinery in the vicinity, that's another scale of business.
Okay.
Because when you have refined crude, there is the simple language I can use, the remnants. You've got the fuel, you've got the remnants.
The residues.
The residues. Now, those residues lead to a whole spur of industrialization, because those residues is what creates the plastics we have.
Okay.
We use. All the polymers, the plastics we use. Currently, that is imported. If you look at the URF figures, the polymers imported as raw material for the plastics industry in this country, the bill was 1.6 trillion last year, an import bill.
1.6, okay.
Now, when you have that raw material in country, you can see you've already done away with that import.
You've dealt with a huge
And you now
part.
have sufficient affordable raw material to spur your industrialization of plastics. If I want you to understand what plastics does for us, the medical industry is plastics.
Plastics.
Everything in the medical line are plastic resins. Look at what you use when you go to the hospital. The small things.
Of course.
The injectables. Everything really. So a whole line of industrializations grows up. The medical industries, the plastics we use. Now all these paints, the input is a raw material out of refining. All the paints, all the detergents we use, the input to that, the raw material required is a residue from refining. The carpets, the rubber, some clothing. So petrochemicals, we call them petrochemical industries, which arise as a result of having a refinery in the vicinity, is the life. Because you wake up in the morning, your alarm clock was plastic.
Definitely.
It got you up. The room you were sleeping in was painted, right?
Exactly.
Petrochemicals. You stepped on the carpet. That was petrochemicals.
The shoes I put on.
Exactly. You went for a bath. The toothbrush, the soap, the detergents.
Petrochemicals.
Petrochemicals. You walked out and entered your car. petrochemical. Now, on the agriculture line, if I was to share that, the fertilizers, that whole agro processing industry, the agriculture, farming and all that, agro industries will grow as a result of petrochemical. So back to the refinery. The refinery is happening not just because of the fuel, but the petrochemical industries, the industrialization that spurs up from having a refinery in the vicinity. So that is a long-term plan. Long-term plan is we have our own refinery and a product in country sufficient for us and enough for our neighboring countries. And we have industrialization coming out of the refinery we have. So we have storage terminals huge enough to prepare our country for rainy days. A reserve. You need stock. You need stock as a country in terms of fuel. I mean, if you read some of these in developed countries, you will hear they buy and stock for the rainy day. So that's where we're heading to. Having enough for our neighbors, having industrialization, having it stored, that's how we see ourselves as UNOC Grain, because we operate across the entire value chain. And so we are in the development level. We are in the pipeline, which is the transportation. We are in the refinery, which is the value add. And then we are downstream, we call this downstream, which is really the storage terminals where we sell in bulk. You will not see a retail company reading UNOC, a petrol station, no. Because us, we stop at the bulk trade.
The bulk trade.
Yes.
Lastly, we've talked about the refinery and having enough for our country and distribution. In just 2 minutes, because I feel like my producer is communicating to me that we are running out of time. We can talk about the capacity building programs. To what degree are they tailored when it comes to meeting the demands of what the world, the global market expects? Because I'm trying to imagine that later we shall have our own people, you know, into the participating into the production, the development processes, indigenous Ugandans. To what degree are we tailoring it to meet the demands of the domestic expectations and global expectations?
Okay, so we have the people already in all these respective areas of business, which is development, refining, transportation, and bulk. We have people, but probably what you're telling me to how ready will this grow? Because the understandings we have with our joint venture partners, Total and CNOOC in the exploration and development, is they pass down that capacity. They are passing it down. We are learning how to operate because we are non-operator at the moment with Total and CNOOC. We are learning how to operate to the extent that we have been given a block as UNOC. Yes, government has given us our own block where we are going to operate. Reason being, we have studied, we are with these partners, and we know now how to run a block. We will need a joint venture partner in terms of financing, because they come with two things, knowledge and financing.
Financing.
Yes, so we will need that. But the fact that government has given us a block shows you that they are confident we are ready as an operator. Kasurubani block was given to us the same way they gave Kingfisher to the Chinese, where we are partnering with them, and Tilenga to the Total, where we're partnering. This is a UNOC block now. So it shows you we're ready. In terms of the pipeline, in the pipeline we have a 15% interest in the pipeline. So that alone ensures that we are ready hands-on to get the knowledge we need. In the refinery, it's even bigger. It's a 40%, because that one is a Ugandan thing. It's going to be financed by public sector and private entities coming on board. So that is really in-house. Then the bulk trading I've just explained, when we partner with people like Vitol, and then we are building our own storage terminal, and our own refinery is going to produce the product. So this is work that has been well calculated and is very intentional to ensure that UNOC's capacity is built to the levels of them becoming a sole player. Because when you have a block, really, then you are destined for, you were really a sole player, and you call the shots, precisely. Yes.
Wow, beautiful. It's been a pleasure. It's been a pleasure to have you, Madame Sarah Banage. He's the head of corporate, that is for corporate affairs, Uganda National Oil Company, and definitely we've been discussing what are the measures that are being put in place to ensure that this model is quite sustainable, as Uganda National Oil Company will be the sole supplier of petroleum products in Uganda. Smart Means Business, Andrew Barigi.